A lovely song that, Ed Sheeran with Afterglow, and here in South Australia we're in the afterglow of daylight saving, which goes a bit longer than it used to. It was changed by the Rand government, largely to ensure that people in Adelaide were able to be out at their March music festivals and the like. It's not that great for farmers who have to work from sun up to sundown, regardless of when that might be on the clock. And I'm going to be clear here from the outset, I'm not here to talk today about daylight saving and the impact it might have on people's curtains. When you see these debates come up in politics about our time zone or the impact of daylight saving on people, straight away you get this throwaway line, particularly from the Labor side of politics, that, oh, well, that's because people are concerned that their curtains will fade. It's just an absolute nonsense argument. What we're here to talk about is the impact that our time zone actually has on people, particularly the further west than you get in the state. This current time zone that we have, 30 minutes behind Melbourne and Sydney time, is that we are sitting on a meridian, a vertical line on the map. That means that our time zone is actually situated in Warrnambool, Victoria. We don't actually have a time zone that runs through our own state. Now, if you were to go half an hour further back, now I know that's a position that was previously advocated, for instance, by Ceduna Mayor Alan Souter, then if you went half an hour further back, that line would actually very neatly almost split the state in half and run pretty close to Port Lincoln if we were an hour behind Eastern Time. Now, two things piqued my interest about this debate today as I was looking into it. First of all, I think the seed was planted in my head looking at the Western Australian Legislative Council results, where a daylight saving candidate has succeeded in getting himself elected to the upper house. Now, that's through the gaming of the preferencing system that saw the likes of Ricky Muir from the Australian Motoring Enthusiast Party get up in a previous Senate, so it doesn't necessarily represent a huge groundswell of support for changes to the daylight saving arrangements in Western Australia, but no doubt you're going to see some debate in Western Australia about what they're going to do with daylight saving off the back of that person getting elected, and that's certainly the first person to ever get elected that I'm aware of whose sole policy platform reason for being in Parliament was to amend the arrangements for daylight saving. I know that there's been a party in Queensland that doesn't have daylight saving that has been advocating to have it, at least in southeastern Queensland. But here in South Australia, we have daylight saving, and it goes for quite some time. Over on the Nullarbor, the roadhouses that are close to the border at the border village, they operate on 1 hour behind regardless of what the state arrangements might be, because it simply makes more sense when it comes to their opening hours. The South Australian government has looked into this issue twice, and it was in 2008 and 2015. They went to a public consultation under former Minister Hamilton Smith, and that was partly Labor wanting to get us across to the same time as Melbourne and Sydney, so pushing our time zone even further to the east, which would have had even worse effect on people on the Eyre Peninsula and over on the west coast. It just seems to me that it's been about 7 years since our last review, and the public sentiment towards it, we've had them every 7 years. We should have another one, and I think the opportunity exists when you've got some independent members of Parliament now in the Yorke Peninsula in the form of Fraser Ellis, and with Mr Brock in the seat of Frome for the time being, possibly into the seat of Stewart. It could be time for another look at what our time zone and daylight saving arrangements are for the benefit of people in our regional areas. The previous debate was started about moving us 30 minutes further east, supposedly because there would be economic benefits of aligning closer to the eastern seaboard markets, but there are others that say, particularly in the seafood industry, there would be benefit in moving 30 minutes the other way and aligning closer with our Asian markets. Very interested to know what you might think about this. If you want to jump onto Facebook, go to Flow FM Australia on Facebook, maybe throw your comments in there on the podcast when we put this episode up on the Facebook page. What do you think? What should our time zone and daylight saving arrangement be? With a state election coming up and some possible independents that could get re-elected or elected in country seats in the western part of the state, maybe it's the perfect time to put some pressure on.